Howdy folks, today we're going to talk a little bit about Crontab, or Cron as you may have heard it. The Crontab is a program that is designed to automatically run scripts at various intervals. It's not super commonly used in a lot of web development, but it is a very powerful tool for developer operations, and a lot of times if you are doing backend code, you'll be writing Crontabs as well for various things. Let's get into it. So, what is a Crontab? Well, the name comes from a combination of Chronos, which is the Greek god of time, and the word table, Crontab. I've also heard another acronym for Cron, but I wasn't able to validate that and completely know if that was accurate. It's a program that runs commands automatically at specified intervals. It's really commonly used for running backups, if you have various scripts that are doing cleanup, or if you have data analysis, data manipulation that needs to run on a schedule. An example I'll give you is a project I wrote runs a cron tab every 10 minutes. And every 10 minutes it looks up the various user sessions that exist, and ones that are going to expire soon, it triggers a message to that user saying, hey, you're going to get logged out soon. Similarly, you could have a cron tab that every night makes sure that your database is backed up. Or every morning at 3 a.m. it runs a cleanup script that deletes a bunch of old users, maybe that haven't logged in a year. The major confusing thing about Crontab is the syntax. So this example here we have is actually an example of Crontab syntax. It is 5 items, and then a command. So the first item is minute, then hour, day of month, month, and year. The asterisk indicates any. So this particular command would run every minute, every hour, every day, every month, every year. If you wanted to run a command at midnight, you would say 0, 0, star, 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 and then the command. What does that mean? Well, the 0 here means run it on minute 0. Basically, when you're at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, etc., the 0 here means run it on midnight. Now, this is a 0 to 23 clock. It's using military time. You might wonder, why don't we have it as star 0, star, star, star? Well, if we did it star 0, then it would actually run every single minute for the hour of midnight. So it would run at 12:01, 12:02, 12:03, 12:04. We only want it to run once. Maybe you do want it to run every single minute for 4 p.m., in which case you would have star 16, star, star, star. There's a lot of power here and a lot of complexity you can add into this. We don't generally use a lot of it, but let's look at some of the common cases. So here, running once every certain number of minutes. Following syntax, star/5. This basically says every minute that's divisible by 5. You could also say star/10 and it would be every 10 minutes. The same thing can be done with hours. If you say star/2 for hours, it'll be every other hour that it'll run. And the same syntax will work for the rest, though it's very uncommon. Like if you have something that runs like star/2, that would basically be saying run every minute, every hour, every day, every month, but only on even years. Maybe there's a use case for that. I don't know what it is. Another really common use case is to run at groupings of times. Like if you wanted a job that ran at 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., it would look like this. Again, we have that 0 because we only want it to run once in that hour. 6:21. Note 21 is the military time for 9 p.m. and 6 is military time for 6 a.m. And then again, star, star, star. If you wanted something that only ran on the weekdays, for example, let's see, it kind of, I believe 0 is usually Sunday. So you would probably have 0,6 to run on Sunday and Saturday for the day. So let's take a look at an example. Here, I have a very simple script. What does the script do? Takes an fs, takes in the path. It gets the file path, dir name, output. It gets the current date time, and it appends this message to my file. If I run this, you can see it creates a file called output. Script was run. Run it again, another line comes in. Pretty simple stuff, right? Well, let's try to put it into cron so that it runs, every minute. In cron, the command, if you're using Mac, then you have cron already installed. If you're using Windows, then you will have to install it. I will say, generally, you're not going to run cron on your own system. That's kind of unusual because most major operating systems have their own job scheduling things that are a little bit more user-friendly. You would more often be setting up cron or a Crontab for a production environment. So you'd be setting this up for your Heroku instance, for instance, though Heroku has some other mechanisms for that. And in that case, you probably are using something Unix-based. Linux actually has cron D, which is the cron daemon, but on Mac we have Crontab, and if I just run it, it says, hey, I would like to administrate your computer, because this is a system setting. It's okay. And now you notice it's not actually doing anything, it's just kind of hanging. That's because this is actually running the Crontab. I don't really want it to run the Crontab daemon because I know Mac is already doing that. So I'm going to pass in -L. -L basically gives me what is in my current Crontab. If you've never set up Crontab before, you might get a message at this point that says it couldn't find a Crontab for your user. That's totally normal at this point. That's totally okay. If you want to edit, Crontab-E. And now you can see it opens up in VI for me. In order to go into edit mode, press I, and you can see it goes to insert mode there. So let's say that I wanted to run my particular script here once a minute. Okay, so I'd say minute, hours, days, months, years, node, basic.js. No, not quite, because basic.js is somewhere. When Crontab runs, it doesn't have the same context that you as a user do in your own terminal. When you open up a bash terminal, like this for instance, it knows who I am. It runs my bash profile, and when we've installed stuff like Node or NVM or MySQL, things like that, our profile has been modified to auto-load that stuff. Cron doesn't get any of that. So it doesn't know where basic.js is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the path. And I'll come in here, and instead of this, I'm just going to paste that entire path. Users, Robert, code, unblockME video examples, cron basic.js. Necessary. Generally, you'd probably have your cron files in a simpler location, somewhere where it's a little easier to access them. So then, when I want to save, I press escape to leave insert mode. And you notice, oops, if I'm in insert mode and I press escape, that little mode at the bottom goes away. Colon, WQ. Colon tells VI, and you can actually very easily end up inside recording mode if you're not careful here. If you press Q first without seeing the colon down there, you'll end up in recording mode, so be careful, because VI is very treacherous of an editor. The colon tells that we're entering command mode. W says, I would like to save my changes to this file. Q says, I would like to quit. If you run Q without the W and you've made changes, it says, hey, you haven't written your file. You probably want to do that. So in that case, you could put Q exclamation mark, and that will actually discard your changes. But in this case, I'm going to put WQ, which will write and then quit. Okay. And actually, I think it said exit with status 1, which might mean it didn't work. So let me run Crontab-L. Yeah, it didn't work. Okay, I think it's because I mucked around with it a bunch. Node, paste that in. Oh gosh. Now it pasted some other thing in. You can see it's not the most friendly text editor. There's a way to change it to use other editors if you want. Alright. There we go. Now it says it's installing new Crontab, and it pops this up again. Hey, we'd like to administer your computer. Sure. Allow. Now, you notice I have this output here. I have to now wait until the top of the bottom of the next minute. So I'm going to pause the recording until that happens, and then when we're getting close, I'll unpause and you can see it run in action. Alright, we're almost there. We're 5 seconds away. A couple seconds now. And nothing happens. Well, could be a lot of reasons that nothing happened. Let's see. Let's run Crontab L. No, it is in there, and that looks correct. We want to actually run some error checking code to do this. And I'll kind of show you what needs to happen for that. Let's new text file. And so let's say we have our node .js. So just to simplify it, if I actually want to output the error here, I can do that via a redirect. So the terminal has a couple ways of redirecting. There is 2 channels that you can use. There's 1 and 2. 1 is what we call standard out, std out, and that is any standard prints that you have, console logs, anything like that. Then there's 2, which is standard error, stderr. That is errors, console.error, any issues that happen with your command. And I want to find out any issues. So what is commonly done is, first of all, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to say log, okay? And that's going to pipe my standard out into a file called log. So let me show you what that does. Let's say I console log here. And oops. And let's change this to basic. And I run this. This. There we go, in here. Now you can see it created a new file called log, and that has my output. Now if there's an error, like maybe let's say I mistyped some JavaScript, and I run this, it gives me this error still. Well, I want that to go somewhere too. What we want to do then is we want to, first of all, we could say 2. Right, and you see it says dev null. Pick dev null if you want to just ignore the output. I could say errors. Notice there's the 2 here. Now if I run this, you can see errors becomes a log, and it gives you the whole error of what went wrong. More commonly though is this particular syntax. What that says, 2 greater than, or 2 pipes into &1, is it says take your error output and pipe it to the same place you're sending your standard out. This can be really useful in a lot of cases, especially if you're in certain terminals or doing things a certain way where you're not actually going to see the standard error output and you kind of want it to log. Or for example, in this case, let me delete this, I want it all to go into the same file here. So if I run this, you can see now the error shows up in my log. The thing about this command is, though, just like we had our long path name for basic, we need a long path name for log as well. So I have right here, this is actually the full path name of what we need. You can see we have our script, our little arrow there to say redirect our standard out to this file, and then 2 redirects to 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that. I'm going to edit my cron tab, and I'm actually going to hit, from here you can type D twice and it just deletes the entire line, which can be useful because I didn't want to backspace all that stuff, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Escape, :WQ. Okay, allow, and once again it's nowhere near the bottom of the minute, so I'm going to pause for a second. All right, we're almost there. And I realized I actually left an error in here, so I just got rid of the console log. Okay. Oh, look, log appeared out of nowhere. That's great. That means something ran. That means Crontab's running, and this gave us a log. Node command not found. That's interesting. Well, this actually makes sense, because if you think about it, the reason we know where node is because NVM, or if you installed via something else, it's actually added some stuff into our bash profile or our Z shell profile, which tells us how to find node, but the Crontab doesn't have that. So what we can do in this case is we can actually go in here and we can ask, if you're on OS X, where is node? All one word for where is. And it'll say, here it is. I found here. Notice this is in NVM. So I'm going to copy that and replace my node here with that line. This is looking pretty messy now, isn't it? It's a pretty long command. Generally in a Crontab, a professional Crontab, your system's set up in such a way that you don't have to do this long of a thing. This just happens to be because of how I have it set up. So again, we're going to go into our Crontab, we're going to edit it. I'm going to delete this with tapping D twice, and I'm just going to paste, I copied this line from off screen, but it's basically the same command with those asterisks. Escape, WQ, allow, and we'll pause for a couple seconds. All right, and I'm so optimistic this is going to work that I've already got the output open. And there we go. Look at that. See, that line appeared. Script was run 9:50 p.m. There's a lot of things you could do at this point. Notice this is a full JavaScript program. I could have a bunch of things running here. I could have fetch stuff to call a specific API maybe, or I could have a database connection to go and grab data from the database. Kind of really the sky's the limit for whatever you want to have here. So to recap, Crontab is a program that automatically runs scripts or just really any terminal command that you want. But because a terminal command can be node, we can do kind of whatever we want with that. This also works with other languages like Python or PHP, or even if you have like a C++ binary or a Java jar file, you could run those as well, as long as your system is set up to do that. So Crontab is the command. Crontab-L lists your current Crontab. Crontab-E opens an editor. The four or five numbers here indicate minutes, hours, days, month, and year. Kind of when you want this to run. Asterisk means any and all. You could also put a number. You could put */ a number to be every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, etc. You could also put number, comma, number to do multiples. Then your command. Sometimes things go wrong, so you want to log by using the > greater than &1, which redirects your errors into your standard out. And then if you just use the greater than sign in a file name, it'll redirect your standard out to a log file to be logged. That's all for this one, folks. You can see actually, even though this is a basic intro to Cron, it's quite long because Cron it's a powerful tool, and it was created a long time ago, which means it's not the easiest thing in the world to use. Definitely would encourage you to look up additional things that you might be able to do with it. Maybe you get some cool ideas. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful. I'll see you all next time.